Hello, my name's Bart, and today we're doing another lap guide in the FIF 4 car and iRacing, and we're going around the Hungaroring circuit. Here's the hot lap. Alright, so heading down the main straight now at the Hungaroring. Turn 1, heavy braking zone, going down from 6th to 2nd gear in this car. You really have to mash the brake pedal. If you're not hitting pretty much 100%, you're going to find that you're probably going to be holding the brake a lot later into the corner as you're turning in, and then the car's going to lock up, and then it's going to stop turning, and you're going to go wide. So to try and avoid that, let's make sure we hit the brake really hard initially when we first hit the brake. And along with that, if you feel like you can't make the apex, just bring it back a bit earlier. You really have to make sure you're not locking the fronts or sliding the front tires on the way, and otherwise you get a lot of understeer and you just miss the apex and you get a really bad exit then. So, okay, that's the important thing. Braking reference is really easy here. You had the 100-meter board, you had the white line. It's basically in the middle of those two. That's my reference just before this white line here. Safety car line. Braking a dead straight line down to about 3rd gear. And then as you're slowing down, you just start to turn in. You can see I'm going to drop the brake in a second quite quickly. So watch that input. See how quickly I drop the brake as soon as I start turning into the corner. If I maintain any more brake pressure, the front's just going to slide and lock up, and then you miss the apex. So avoid that. Don't need to hit the inside curb. You can and still have a good first corner, 100%. I think generally it's one of those corners where it's slightly better to miss it than hit it, if that makes sense. So you can do a quick turn 1 if you're about half a car wider than I am at the moment. It'll still be pretty good if you execute it well. It's a lot more important that you really push your braking and you rotate the car efficiently than it is that you're on the inside curve. And sometimes if you brake a little bit early, you get the car nicely turned in. You basically hit the inside curve and you've got to stop turning, or it kind of upsets your exit a bit. So it's better to be on the late side of things, I'd say, rather than the early sides. Early sides result just to get that better exit and that ability to rotate the car cleanly through the corner. Okay, now here. Once you get through this little cambered bit in the middle, want to start picking up the throttle. You can see I just start to lose the rear a little bit. I'm trying to get on, carry quite a bit of speed and get on the throttle quite early, so that's why we're just on the limit there. The car is going to want to step away from you at the rear end on the exit, so just watch out for that. You can use quite a lot of the exit, so as long as my right tires are on the red and white curving, it's all legal. So just make sure you're pushing that a lot there. Into the second corner, really challenging. Very heavy initial braking here. Braking references just after the start of this entry curve is a pretty good reference. This is a corner where if you brake really late, similarly to turn 1, it's very easy to lock up and miss the corner. I also found it's very easy to brake really hard and overheat the rear tires and get a big slide into the corner. I think part of that as well is because you see the shape of the corner, kind of like off camber, very off camber. You see if you ever watched the TV broadcast in F1. And then because it's downhill, the inside rear tire, so the left rear, is kind of hanging in the air. So if you brake really hard, you kind of put a lot of weight on the nose. Or sometimes if you brake really hard, really quickly, sometimes upsets the rear, right? You kind of overheat the tires a bit, or just use a lot of the grip available, especially if you've got the brake bias a bit more rearwards from the base brake bias you have on this car, right? And you'll turn to the corner, and that tire's now kind of floating in the air. So, and then it kind of lands a little bit and it loses grip. So it's very easy to understand how you might slide the car here. So I find the best thing to do is just be a little bit, like a tiny bit under the limit on the entry. Very hard brake though. Don't think here, oh no, I'm sliding mid corner, I need to not brake as hard or as brake as brake as hard or aggressively, at least at the start of the braking zone. At the start of the braking zone, you really have to smash the brake pedal. So you first hit the brake, bang, onto like 90%, as you see here. But you've got to come off quickly. The problem is when you maintain the brake, that's when you kind of upset the rear, like I talked about, and slide the tire. So watch out for that. And also try to stay on the right as long as possible, just because that whole, like we talked about turn one, if you start turning in, when you got the brake on, it'll just lock up. So just try to hold the line as long as possible. Make that turn in as late as you can. You're going to have to turn it at some point, otherwise you're just never going to make it in with the way it's cambered. But that's kind of what we're trying to do in the entry. Then you have this big coast phase here. You might be part throttle, but I think you need a coast phase just to let the car rotate. If you get on throttle on the fixed setup, it just understeers. So if it's sliding here, if you feel like it's just looping around on the rear, then you've held too much brake pressure into the corner. You kind of slid the rear tires. You've overworked them. You need to bring it back a little bit, slow the car down a bit earlier on the entry phase. Just around this marshal's hut is a good place to be at the white line on the inside. That's a good reference there. And then around then, you're going to be picking up throttle. Not super quick onto full here. You really have to control the rear. It's super easy to get a snap of oversteer on the exit. And it's a really important exit as well. So just try and be smooth on the wheel. Use all the track on the exit here in this car. It'll easily take this right-hander flat, so don't feel like you have to prep it. Use all the track there. Okay, nicely out of here now, up the hill. Now into this quick left. Just make sure we position the car. Don't be too early or over to the right-hand side of the track. Put your right tires on this curb. You can see I'm braking in kind of a diagonal, let's say, because the right hand, the entry curb here, keeps turning in that direction, but we're not turning anymore, right? We've got to go through this corner. So don't get caught up in where that's going, and also don't just go straight from where the curb starts, like going towards this TV here, somewhere this direction. Ride the curb and then brake when you get it straight. Just get that little bit of a straight car before you turn in. Just helps prepare the platform better in a high-speed corner like this. Really soft brake, right? I don't mind you braking a little bit early, but if you brake really hard and aggressively, you'll probably upset the car. So just try and be soft. It helps you carry more speed, and it also just keeps the car under more control. The other thing as well is I have a lot of understeer here in general, so the front grip is really lacking on the fixed setup. So my advice is really work on trailing the brake in. So look how, even though I could be off the brake here, maybe if I was on a better setup, see as I hit the curb, I do get off the brake. The curb is going to help us turn, but right up until the point I get on the curb, I'm on the brake. If only fractionally. But again, if I had a car that rotated a bit better, I might come off the brake. I'm not braking to slow the car down at this point. I've already done that. I'm only braking to just keep the weight on the nose. Okay, so just keep the car turning through the corner, trail brake through the corner. So just keep that in mind. It's very easy to understeer here. If you're doing that, just try and maintain a little bit of brake pressure. Curb. It's pretty much the limit to not getting off track. Just have your left tires on the main part of the curb and your right tires on the white line. This works pretty well. If you take less curb than this, you end up not being able to carry as much speed through. This really helps hook the car up on this apex curve and get it rotated and prepared for the next corner. If you take more, again, you get off track, maybe you can upset the car a little bit. Okay, force the car out all the way here. Pretty much when you hit the curb, get on throttle. Pretty standard thing in this car. Exit-wise, this is the limit. If you run any more than this, you can see it got a little bit upset because I got on the edge of the curb. But if you run any more than this, you will get off track. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Try and work as hard as you can. You need to carry a lot of speed through there in this car, but also try and work to get it back to the left. It's pretty difficult. It's not one of the cars where I'd fully compromise the exit out of the previous left. It's also not a car where I wouldn't be worried about getting back to the left. It's a hard balance, right? You can see here I think it's better to push all the way out here and just try and get back as much as you can. You can see I pretty much get back to the white line, but you have to do it straight away. Don't be sitting around thinking, being distracted. Just get straight onto going to the white line on the left hand side, and start braking. And remember, you're not going to be able to brake very hard here because we're never straight. If you look at the point where I'm braking, we're never ever straight, and that's because I'm working to try and open up the corner. So just keep that in mind. Don't brake super hard. I'm braking a bit softer. Down to third gear. Get the car nicely just pulled into this white line as late as you can, pretty much. A bit like turn 2, as late as you can reach the inside while actually reaching it, because again, it's off camber on the entry, and don't touch the inside curve. There's no. Sometimes it's okay, but generally it upsets the car and just ruins your exit. Very aggressive when you pick up throttle here. Try and get to full throttle pretty quick, okay? Otherwise, it'll just understeer. And with this is one of the more aggressive exit curbs in terms of the off track, so keep that in mind. You can only really run half your car up to the kind of the lip of the curb, so not much wider than this. Keep that in mind. Not as nice as turn 1 exit and some others. Okay, so braking for the chicane now. Fourth and down to third gear. I like in this car to brake on the curbing. You just gotta be smooth, right? Pointing outward to try and open up the corner as much as possible. Down to third gear. As long as you keep your left tires on the white line, this pretty much is legal. It's, again, very similar to that quick uphill left. The curbing's basically the same, right? Just hook it onto this inside curb. It really likes that. Then you can pick up the throttle and just try and carry as much speed as possible up to that point. It's really important, okay? Don't slow the car down too much, because then you kind of end up hitting the curb too early. If you hit this curb too early, you are ruined, okay? So I'm trying to meet curb about there, okay? I guess braking marker it's very difficult here, just braking before that marshal's putt, but pretty difficult to judge. Yeah, full throttle. If you're off this right hand curb, you should be full throttle. If not, then you're not preparing enough, okay? You need to prepare this. Hit the sausage curb on the left, but don't put the middle of the car over it. It'll upset if you put the floor of the car over this curb, and also it's off track, so try and avoid that. Just left tires on it like this. It's all fine, should be flat. See here, I had to do, not quite perfect, I had to do a little lift just because I was about to run off, but managed to catch it. Pretty quick chicane. Up to fourth quickly. Really soft brake in here. Again, this is a corner where you want to kind of want to meet, you need to hit this inside curb, but you want to hit it late, so you don't want to be so fast in you don't hit it. Especially this inside bit, forget the run white, this inside bit of the curb that you can really hook up on. We don't want to hit it here, we want to hit it here. So that's what I'm aiming for here. Really soft brake, meet the curb late round here. Then that allows you to get on throttle. Try and get back to the left as much as you can. There's a lot to gain there if you get it right. I could have been a bit better on this lap, to be honest. Down to third, just lifting down to third gear. I found this made a big difference. Change down to third with the exit. So just change down to third very briefly. You shouldn't need to lift much. So change down to third quickly, and as soon as you get into third, you should be able to just pick up throttle straight away and pretty aggressively. As long as you don't slide the rear out, you should be able to get onto full throttle. You can use all of this curving, right? As long as your right tires are on the red and white, just make sure you get back before the end of it. Very aggressive curb use there. Stand on the left-hand side, shorten the distance, prepare the car for this next right-hander. Do not ride this entry curb. It'll only upset the car. Do not ride it on like turn 5 or whatever it is at the start lap. Okay. Just lifting in here is fine. So you see a lift down to about 5%. Hook it on this inside curb, and just as soon as you get on that inside curb, you can pretty much floor it, get straight to full throttle. Car goes quite nice around the corner then. Track-wise here, this is always one of those ones where a bit on the edge there. So legally, you can run until you run off the curb, a bit like that quick left early in the lap, same curbing as that. However, you do bottom out a bit in this car if you run over the red and white curb. So you see, you can just, here, there, I bottom out a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. I don't lose too much time. That's about the limit. So it's a bit of a compromise. Like, do you take a bit more curb, take more speed through the corner, maybe lose a bit on the bumps, but yeah. Ideally, I think just use all the red and white or just over it. You see there, I only just run over it for a second. All right, this next right-hander, quite tricky. Again, very heavy braking, pretty standard with this car. Straight to 90% brake pressure. You should be braking after the start of the entry curve and before the 50-meter board. Pretty good range there. Try and be as late as you can on this corner. It's a corner where you get punished quite a lot if you brake early, and I think it's a corner where it feels like you're going to miss the corner where you should be braking, which is here. This feels pretty late, right? Because it's a pretty tight corner, but you can carry quite a bit of speed through the apex, so keep that in mind. And also, if you brake too early, the reason why I say don't do that is the way the curb is, it kind of pushes you off and you get track limit penalty on the exit, or you have to back out. So not ideal. And also the track kind of goes away from you. All right, so braking a straight line, not using the entry curb, down a third gear, very similar to turn one with the braking technique, or even turn two. Again, similar to a lot of the corners on this track, hooked on this inside curb. Once you get on that inside curb, you should be able to pick up throttle fairly aggressively. It's going to want to understeer a bit, just kind of deal with it. Very aggressive curb use, same as turn one on the exit. And then preparing for the second last corner, quite tricky corner. So you see how the track kinks here. It's always been annoying in general. So too many people, far too many people, they brake and they're pointing in this direction and they're never straight here. That's not what we want at all. So you can see here, I'm working really hard to get the car back over to the right-hand side, but don't point this way and go, I'm going to meet the white line around here. No, that's not. If you do that, it's too late. You're pointing the wrong way and you just started braking by then. So you need to kind of get to the white line here and then turn with the track. It's tricky, right? So you see here, point to start the curb pretty much, then turn the car. Now I've got it in line with the white line, the curbing on the right-hand side, just as I hit the brake pedal. It's pretty, again, tricky, but you got to get it right. Braking references, don't use shadows. This Marshall hut on the right-hand side, braking down to third gear. Very similar technique to turn two, and it's turn 6, 7, that long right we saw earlier in the lap, where you want a very delayed minimum speed point, so slowest point in the lap, when you're kind of meeting the white line. That's just the way the shape of the corner is. And especially this one, I think is quite well known to a lot of people, because if you push it a bit on the entry, not only is it very easy to lock up, it's also really easy to lose the rear mid-corner. And it's a very similar thing to what I said with turn two. If you're kind of braking into the corner, maybe not locking up, but braking, carrying a bit too much speed, then you kind of overwork the rear and it goes over these bumps, and then the track kind of falls away from you and you just slide out. So try, just, if you're losing the rear in the mid corner here, that's a message to say, okay, I pushed it a bit too hard. I probably need to slow the car down a bit earlier. Maybe I need to brake a bit more efficiently, or just move my braking a bit earlier, or position better, or whatever, right? So, yeah. Don't brake that heavily here, right? See, 50% right now, bleed off pretty quick as I'm turning in. You can see I'm not pointing the car in straight away. I'm very, very slow to reach inside. I want to reach there. I know it all looks the same, but trust me, that's where I'm looking. Kind of meet it around here somewhere, drive into here, meet the inside around here. I see around where that tree is, where the butte is. Looking for that kind of stuff. And as you come off the brake, it's quite late in the corner. You see I just have a little coast face here. Then the car should bite and should rotate. So you see at this point, kind of hooks up, and then it allows me to get on the throttle. Because now I know I've got it turned, I can get on the throttle, so I don't hit the inside curb and start accelerating out of the corner. Tricky in terms of how you get on the throttle here. Because, some corners you're like, okay, I really want to floor it because I don't want to get understeer. And some corners you'll want to be a bit slower so you don't spin up the rear tires. This is always a fight between the two. It depends on how the corner's going and your tires and all sorts of things. But for me here, you can see I'm understeering a bit initially, so I kind of pick up the throttle a bit more, and then the rear starts sliding, and I just kind of deal with it. So yeah, just play around with that. You can use quite a bit as exit curb, but you don't really want to be further out than this, maybe one tire width, because the off-track here can be a bit aggressive. Also, you just won't get back in time to prepare for the last corner, so it's pretty much the limit here. Quickly up into fourth, you could hold third. I think it's worth it. You do kind of get just a little bit of time, your full throttle, so I think it's worth to go up to fourth gear. You can see flat out as I'm turning in, and turning in around where that Marshall's hut is. Tricky last corner as well. Tricky. So with this corner, the way I like to think about it is similar to what we just spoken about. A lot of these like really late apex or late minimum speed corners, really long, constantly turning curbs you don't really want to hit. So another one of those corners, you see I meet the inside about here. This one, I don't think you actually need to reach the white line. You don't have to necessarily on all of them do a quick lap, but generally I think you would. But this one, I'm not so concerned with that. It's less about meeting one particular point and driving out from there, and more about having treating it more like a V, right? So kind of pointing the car in on full throttle, braking, having your slowest point, which is around here. And this is kind of where your rotation point is. It could be right in the white line. Sometimes it's out here. I actually think it's generally more consistent. If you watch F1 drivers, for example, you'll see this. To rotate the car somewhere out here. I mean, an F4 car and iRacing, we're going to take less distance than F1 car generally. But somewhere out here is where they're kind of, this is their slowest point. This is where you want to rotate the car. And because of that, I think too many people brake too early or they slow the car down too much. They end up really tight to this inside curb. And that's a horrendous thing to do. Because if you end up really tight to this inside curb, you can't turn anymore. You just kind of have to stop turning. All you can do is get on the throttle or play around with the throttle a little bit. And then you're kind of stuck and you'll probably just understeer or slide. Maybe you'll lose some time moving around, or you'll just drive off and take an off track or whatever, right? So not a great thing to do. So that's why I think it's more important here. Just focus on kind of Ving it a bit more, get it in, break in a roughly, it's not straight, but you know what I mean? Diagonal line as you go in, kind of rotate the car at this point. That's where you see it. I'll come off the brake. That's where I get the rotation. And now I can kind of get on the throttle and just nicely push it out. The other thing to consider as well is you can be really aggressive on this off track. I could have been even more aggressive on this lap. So as long as your right tires are on this red and white curb, it's still legal. Get that in mind. But it's far more important here to carry the speed in, carry the minimum speed. So reduce that braking, okay? If you're too tight to the inside, reduce that braking. Don't brake too much later because you don't want to end up like massively wide. But just carry enough speed that you don't slow down super early and you're not too tight to the inside is the main thing. And it just keeps the speed up all the way through the corner and can actually help your exit if you get it right. Like I said, just use all the curbing on the exit and then it's just flat out into the finish line. Okay, so that takes us towards the end of the video now. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. And you can also check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord, which is in the YouTube video description. My name is Bart, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.